Hey everybody, Darren Cross here. Welcome to Module 5, Business 400, Driving Business Opportunities. In this module, we are just continuing on with the project and with all of those elements that are going to enhance your project as you work through the course. So far, we've been over this before. We've touched on Blue Ocean Strategy. We know that it's all about innovation and value propositions. We have developed a new product or service. Some have been challenged by that because you haven't necessarily focused on something that's innovative or that's difficult to duplicate, and maybe you've had some challenges. Some are just moving on with it, and that's fine. You'll be fine in the course. But we've started to kind of add some things to that project. Okay, so we started talking about if there really is going to be a market for that project. Is there really market opportunity for that project? Then we started digging into, can we actually make money? Does it make sense from a financial standpoint to push forward with the project? And we basically dug into the business model canvas. So you've looked at all of those elements on those 9 building blocks on the business model canvas to determine if or to help enhance the desirability or your perception or development of desirability, feasibility, and viability for that project. And so here in Module 5, the learning objectives are to discuss how the project is good for corporate social responsibility and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So CSR and DEI. So the thing is here, we're going to infuse these things into your project. This isn't something that historically companies have had at the forefront of their thinking. And so it's not been a consideration. And as a result, what we've seen is things like companies polluting certain environments. They put their stuff in their waste in a river or something like that, or they're not necessarily concerned about the environment that they're operating in or the impact of what they're doing on the communities that they operate in. When it comes to DEI, companies haven't necessarily thought any more deeply than surface level. In other words, what profit is really about. They haven't really thought past that to see the impact that things that their actions may be having on the communities within their organizations. And so what we're going to do in Module 5 is kind of infuse some of this stuff into your project. So the other objective is to determine if the company has a corporate culture built around DEI and CSR. Okay, so you're going to dig into those things and discuss them in your discussions. Now, what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about what corporate social responsibility and DEI are. So I've been teaching business for 21 years now, and I have been pretty much a strict free market guy. I had been for until probably 17 years ago. So those of you who are free market people, you know that Milton Friedman, famous economist, often talks about the fact that there is no responsibility of a business owner outside of that responsibility to profit. And there was a while when I really resonated with that because I'm like, okay, we just have to focus on the profit. If you look at what Adam Smith said, who wrote Wealth of Nations, and Adam Smith said that, hey, you let the invisible hand guide people's actions and everything will work out fine. If I pursue what's good for me, everything will work out fine. And I thought, okay, that's a beautiful system that really kind of takes care of itself. The problem is it doesn't necessarily take care of itself, because when corporations get bigger and bigger and bigger and they have more and more and more influence, then they can influence things beyond what the invisible hand can influence. And if organizations are actually looking at what's beneficial only for them, then what happens is communities get hurt, communities are impacted, and not always positively. So corporate social responsibility is really a company's commitment to operate ethically and contribute positively to society and the environment. So instead of worrying about the bottom line, you probably heard now people are focused on the triple bottom line. So where the bottom line used to be profit, now the triple bottom line is profit, planet, and people. Being concerned about the environment that you operate in and the people that are impacted by your organization. CSR involves going beyond legal compliance. So it's not just about following the laws, it's going beyond legal compliance and integrating responsible practices into the company's core business strategy. So it's about thinking ahead and integrating all of these things into your business. The importance of CSR has grown significantly in recent years as stakeholders demand greater transparency and accountability from business. So um, it's something that isn't going away, and companies really have to be thinking about it. So, what are the benefits of CSR? Well, it can enhance a company's reputation and brand image. A company who is said to be responsible and thinking about the planet is probably seen in a better light than one that just doesn't care. It's all about just profit. And we can see this even in the movies that we watch, right? So you have the corporate greedy CEO that only cares about money. And then you have the ones who are concerned about their impact on every stakeholder that might be impacted. And those CEOs are typically painted in a better light, and it makes sense. People really want to think that it's not just about money when it comes to businesses, and I think that the tide has really turned when it comes to that. Improved employee engagement and productivity because a CSR mentality really focuses on people. Of course, the people, one of the stakeholder groups that's probably, you know, pretty significant in your organization is your employees. And so if you are focused on CSR initiatives, the employee, it kind of jazzes employees up, and it helps them to be productive, and they're motivated to do things that they know are going to impact the community positively. It can help you avoid or mitigate risk. The risk of non-compliance. So even though it goes beyond legal compliance, when you think about what CSR is really focused on, things like environmental issues, things like the impact of leaving a community if you've been a big part of that community, the impact of traffic that might happen in that community as a result of your company. Um, if you think about all of those things, there may be some inherent requirements or regulations uh, that you need to be focused on. And if you're not, if you're only focused on profit, perhaps you might be out of compliance. So you can mitigate risk in by just simply having a CSR mentality. You have access to capital and investment opportunities. So there are a lot of investors who are looking for green opportunities or environmentally aligned opportunities. Um, Also, long-term sustainability. This is the thing that really got to me. The deal is, if we really want to profit, this is the one concept that made me say, "Wow, okay, that's what it's about." If we really want to profit and we want to profit for the long term, shouldn't we make sure that there are people around, that we're not hurting people, that the planet is going to be around, that we have a positive impact on our communities? That's a way of really increasing longevity and sustaining that company. So that's the thing that made me say, "Oh, now I get it." Um, Competitive advantage, perhaps there are a lot of companies that are pursuing green activities, and as a result of that, they actually have efficiencies, and those efficiencies show up in the form of competitive advantage, and we see that with things like electric cars or new, more efficient electrical processes. Um, it really is something that kind of drives innovation and leads to competitive advantage. And finally, partnerships and collaborations. Um, if you're an organization that really relies on government organizations um, or other nonprofits and things like that, and you're partnered with them, a lot of those organizations require that you are focused on CSR initiatives, and so you have the ability, or at least the space to build partnerships with those kinds of organizations simply because you are there thinking responsibly and thinking about how you're impacting people, planet, as well as profit. Now, when it comes to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, what is it all about? Well, it's an organization's commitment to creating a workplace that values and respects individuals from various backgrounds. It involves fostering an environment where all employees are treated fairly, have equal opportunities for growth, and can contribute their unique perspectives. Embracing DEI principles is crucial for building a diverse and inclusive workforce, which positively impacts organizational culture and performance. Here's the thing: the more diverse, when you have diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, and that actually leads to innovation. So, diversity is a good thing within organizations, and I think that a lot of organizations understand this. But the problem is, we haven't always been thinking about what it means to really embrace diversity. We think that we understand the best ways to do things, and so there's nothing that can really be added to it, right? But really, and we don't we think that we're being fair, but because of unconscious bias or because of the disparate impact of our actions, we don't realize that some people maybe don't feel included, and some people don't feel like they're valued in their organization, and so. DEI can be a little tricky because of the interpretation of some of the principles, right? So a lot of people, I teach a specific course just on diversity, and it's really, and I was taken aback by a conversation that I had with not necessarily a conversation, but a meeting where some faculty members at my university, we were talking about diversity because it was important for us to, one of our organizational objectives was to look at specific courses that students had to take that really talked about or focused on diversity. And one person said, "Well, my students are. I typically teach these classes, and my students typically tend to be African American. So there you go. We don't need to talk about diversity." And I thought, no, that's not what diversity is. If you have all of one group, there's not one group that's diverse and other groups are not diverse. The thing is, diversity means that you have all of these other groups, right? Or all of these groups meshing together. And so it's a concept like that. I mean, here you have a PhD who is talking about that concept. It's concepts like that or conceptualizations like that that kind of make this a little bit tricky for us to do what we need to do to really get the goals that we're after, right? Other things like, and I think you guys are going to see this, right? So you're going to see that when you are asked the question, like, how are you going to ensure that that a workforce is diverse? Invariably, I get people saying things like, well, I'm going to make sure I'm going to only hire women, or I'm only going to hire certain races. Well, guess what? If you only hire based upon those things, aren't you really doing the thing that um, we're purporting to actually be combating against? So it's important to just think about that, right? So it's kind of a tricky deal because you really have to just think about what we're really after here. It can be tricky because maybe if you take an action, you're thinking, okay, this is the thing that people think we should be doing, and then you've just alienated a big, huge part of your customer base. So you got to be able to think about those things and integrate and faithfully represent what they expect from you too. And maybe your deal is, well, I disagree with what my customer base thinks. It's a challenge. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about. We also, this kind of goes into what I was talking about before. Our actions may have unintended consequence, right? So we may say, hey, we're going to do this because it's a good thing to do, but we have alienated other groups of people. So we're going to think deeply about that this week, and we're going to dig into it. The goal really of DEI is simple. Become aware of our unconscious bias, those things that we're not always thinking about. Think about the fact that, I mean, you could say, listen, I'm open to everybody. I'm open to all races, all groups. But do your actions reflect that? Do your policies reflect that? So that's what we're going to be digging in on here. And you also need to think about the disparate impact of the actions of companies, right? So sometimes it's like we didn't realize that by virtue of one requirement, there's a group of people who's alienated because they just it just so happens that it's more difficult for that group to be compliant with something that you're doing, or one group hasn't had access to resources that you are requiring them to have by virtue of some decision or some policy or something like that. And so dig into that, and you're going to discuss it really in your discussions this week. And we're not done with it because we're going to talk about it next week as well. But I want you to dig into the resources and really kind of dip in there and familiarize yourself with all of these concepts so that you can think about how you can enhance DEI and CSR in your projects. So the assignments that we have this week, you have the discussion assignment. This is sorry about that. This is, when I get this to you, I'm going to change that. This isn't the BMC assignment. This is the 5.1 CSR discussion assignment. So what I want you to do with all of your discussions, actually put the elements of the prompt as headings in your discussions. Why? Because there's two things that it does. It helps you to stay on focus with what we're looking for, and it helps me to recognize that you're doing that. One of the reason why I've been so, it seems like I'm strict or stringent on you guys using using my templates and using the headings is because when I read something, I'm reading the entire document and I'm like, okay, I see a lot of words and a lot of those can be interpreted in certain ways, and you kind of are addressing some of the things that we're after. I don't see that you're specifically addressing what we're after. And so if you say, here's the heading, here's my response, now I know that that's your response. And also, it gets you focused on your response, right? So it helps you to understand what we're trying to answer. Okay, so use that even in your discussions so that you can address what you're after, all right? So you want to address each element with direct language. If it's saying, what are the things you can do to enhance your project? You say, some of the things I can do to enhance my project are blah, 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 okay? And then I want you to respond to your classmates. And when you reply to your classmates, you're looking at their initial post. When you are replying to them, what you're doing is basically three things. Number one, you're responding in a way that lets them know that you read their stuff and that you understand the context. Hey, Darren, I like your post, specifically what you said about this, that, or whatever. It's interesting because I had an event that was similar to that. Or what do you think would be the case if this extra element wasn't included, or something like that? Then you go into a section that actually this is for this particular assignment. Part of the prompt is that you actually compare your classmates' company to your company when it comes to CSR and DEI. So, hey, it looks like your company has this, that, or whatever. My company was similar, except that there was this added element, or except that we were missing the element that you discussed about this, right? So you want to have that comparison, and then also you want to have a section that offers suggestions for how your classmates can actually improve their plan. So what I want you to do is actually use direct language. That's some of the things that you guys are losing little points because I can't see, I'm not really seeing what you intend to do, right? So you can say, your company was similar to mine in the following ways, blah, 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 right? Or you can say, when you're making suggestions, one suggestion I have is, or I suggest that, but a lot of times you all will do things like, including this extra resource could be helpful. And so I say, okay, I was looking for you to make some suggestions. And then you say, no, I made suggestions. I said that including this could be helpful. No, that's really a comment. I want you to use the direct language. Say, I suggest that you use this resource. It could be helpful in this way, right? So use that direct language so that I know what your intentions are rather than just assuming that you're putting editorial. Okay. Now the other assignment is the 5-2 slide deck assignment. This is an enhancement on your business model canvas. And what's going to happen is this week I'm going to get your module 4 assignments graded and back to you quickly. My goal is to get it back to you by Wednesday so that you can look at it. There's a part in that slide deck that actually says make sure that you're reflecting your instructor's feedback. So I'm going to get that back to you quickly this week, okay? Do not start this assignment until you have gotten that back, and I will get them back by the end of Wednesday, all right? So don't start your assignment or else you can start some of the things, but don't turn in your assignment before you have looked at my feedback. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to go and use, I don't have a template for this week, so you're going to use Snooze template, which is a slide deck, and I'm going to tell you exactly what to do on the slide deck. So use their slide deck, but be sure to watch my assignment video. In that assignment video, I'm going to go through each one of the things on that slide deck and tell you exactly what we're looking for so that you know what to put there and how to turn in your assignment and all of that stuff, okay? So make sure that for that assignment, you do two things. Use Snooze template and use my assignment video. So watch my assignment video. It'll be underneath this welcome video as one of the resources. If you do all of that stuff, I think that you'll be successful. However, if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me. Good luck, everyone.